It's the Brad and Britt cast. We're glad you're with us here, and it's a rare hump day, Brad and Britt cast.
It's one of our favorite DJ cliches is hump day. We do love that one a lot.
Yeah, yeah. All right. I mean, I stop when I'm making the list because it could just go on and on and on and on. We reserve the right to go into the tank on anything and just get diverted and just keep staying on one particular subject. But okay, here we go.
Here we go.
Steelers' wheel of judicial larceny.
Wow.
Like that?
I do.
It's the Steelers' wheel with this group in the 1970s.
You might have heard of them during that Reservoir Dogs. They were on the soundtrack to that.
The cruelty isn't just the point. It's the pleasure of Trump lying about stuff. That's the pleasure. Trump blames Ukraine.
Yeah.
Maybe the Germans really did bomb Pearl Harbor. Think about it. Think about it. And I want to start with the year was 1992. 1992. And in that year, Ukraine gave up their nuclear weapons. They gave up their nuclear weapons.
Just turn them over.
Why? Yeah. Why did they do that? Well, the answer is because we guaranteed them that if the Russians ever screwed with them, we would protect them. They would be under the United States and by extension, Western Europe. France has nuclear weapons. England has nuclear weapons. Okay. Luxembourg, a lot of nuclear weapons. And a lot of people don't know that. We're breaking news. Yeah. But anyway, that was the point. And they didn't want to, but they thought, all right, well, we trust the United States of America. Why? Because we're the United States of America. All right, take that back. We're the country formerly known as the United States of America.
1992 was a very different America. I mean, it's a totally different country 33 years ago than it is right now. You have to point that out. Context is extremely important.
Well, what? Hang on. No, that was a promise forever. Okay.
Allegedly.
Things like that don't just change because there's a new president or something of that sort, especially when it's a country right on the border with the Russians. Okay. So we guaranteed it. And all these years later, here we go. And Ukraine is exposed right now to the nuclear bully, Russia.
Yeah.
And we have a president who just doesn't care. He's on Putin's side. He switched teams. What do they call that in wrestling, Britt? What do they call that when you
it's
just
a heel turn? I believe is what you're thinking of. A heel turn is what you're thinking of there.
Okay, thank you.
That's when the guy. But I almost get the feeling that if you, Jesus Christ, it's so bad you can't even go. But if you ask Trump, are America's sons and daughters going to have to strap on guns and military uniforms and go fight hand in hand with the Russians? I don't know what he'd say. I'm not really sure what Donald Trump would say right now.
Well, so what you're taking it to the next street, which is if they decide to, how shall we say it, not live up to whatever force down Ukraine's throat agreement that we're making, essentially without their actual input.
Yeah.
What would we do? Would we still defend them, or would we just say, tough luck, you live in a tough neighborhood, there's nothing we can do about it? Hey, you had 33 years or so of protection, but that game's over. We spent hundreds of billions of dollars, and game over. You're on your own.
It's weird that he doesn't say that to the Israelis. You're in a tough neighborhood. We were there for a while for you. Not so much now. Yeah, he doesn't say that so much to Israel, does he? I know we made a promise to Israel many, many years ago, but times change.
Well, to be fair, technically you're right, but again, Israel does have the ability to defend itself, and
Thanks
Israel does have, even though it's one of these wink, wink, no one ever has admitted it, but we know it's all true.
Right.
That they have their own nuclear program.
Worst kept secret in the universe is that nuclear has the bomb. Yeah.
Right. But what this does is light the fire of nuclear proliferation throughout the area. Yeah. And the area starts with Russia, would move through Ukraine. If Ukraine suddenly was kind of on its own, what would they do? If they couldn't depend on us, and if I were them right now, would you be ready to depend on the United States to come to your aid? Do you think the words are ever going to come out of Trump's mouth that if something goes wrong? Because he can't even acknowledge that Vladimir Putin has ever not told the truth or has backed down on his word. So,
of course, if you add, I'm gonna depress you even further, because this is coming up today and we're about to get into it. If you went out and you did the standard poll, 1,200 people off the street, random, blah blah blah, the regular scientific poll, who is responsible for the start of the Russia-Ukraine war? How many Americans? What percentage of Americans would say?
Right.
I mean, it's frightening, right?
Right. Yeah. But once Trump goes down this road of lying, big lying, continuously lying, blaming the victim, and everything else that goes along with this utter, completely nutty idea that Ukraine started a war with Russia, I don't think you're wrong. I think by now, if they polled this, it would be up to 15-20%, maybe more. But you know what?
40. It might be 40.
I don't know.
We live in such an uneducated, and he's now, this is what he's been doing. He's been blaming, he's saying that Ukraine, it's their fault that the war was started. And it's like, I don't know how you get there. I don't know how that is. I mean, you can imagine at various points in time, maybe Pearl Harbor really was our fault. We were flaunting it. The Japanese going, hey, we're just a few hours away from Tokyo, got all these ships and everything. Look at us. I think, that may have been our fault. Now that I think of it.
Zelenskyy, the president of Ukraine, is doing his best to take the impossible high road here, which really is an impossibility. We'll go with the UK Guardian here, their version. Trump's criticized Zelenskyy, saying he was disappointed that the Ukrainian leader complained about being left out of the talks between the US and Russia over ending the Ukraine war. It's like we're in fucking India and it's an arranged marriage and you have nothing to say about who you're marrying. Just show up. We'll let you know when
the grown-ups are talking over here, okay? Could you just hold it down? Please?
Trump also seemed to blame Kyiv for Moscow's invasion, even as he said he was more confident of a deal to end the war after. It's not a deal if you give the other guy everything.
That's not a deal. That's capitulation. Again, if Donald Trump saw the guys, if he saw the movie The Accused, the guys in the pool hall would be his heroes. Those would be the guys that are the good guys in Donald Trump's eyes.
Yeah. I'm very disappointed. I hear they're upset about not having a seat at the talks. Said this Marafucco. President said a half-baked negotiator could have secured a settlement years ago without the loss of much land. Really? If, you know what? If Zelenskyy would have known that, doggone it, he would have dealt it away back then. What? Man.
Here's what happened. A couple of Ukrainian soldiers stood at the border. They went nanny, nanny, boo, boo. Completely Ukraine's fault. Completely and totally.
So you think that they enticed the Russians?
He says this stuff. He's not even smart enough to reverse engineer how he got there. Like he can't even show the math on that. Like, how do you figure Ukraine did this? How do you figure that them being attacked? How do you think that's their? And that's the other thing. There's not that many people in history, and I know you weren't alive when this happened, but like when Gandhi was walking the earth, And most people saw Gandhi, and they were like, well, that's a very righteous dude. He's doing a good thing over there. But in Donald Trump's world, look at him doing that terrible thing that he's doing, causing people to be lit on fire. He's just the worst. Jesus is over in there flipping off tables. Jesus is trying to upset the Pharisees' business. Here you go, Judas. Here's some cash. Here you go, Pontius. Go ahead and get rid of him. I mean, like, Zelenskyy is as close to a universally beloved figure as you're going to find on planet Earth right now. Right now, as we speak, year of our Lord 2025, this guy is mostly seen as like a hero to a lot of the world.
Right. And as we know, Donald Trump's repertoire, his vocabulary is very limited. Okay. So he's already gone with Zelenskyy has a 4% approval rating. 4%, which of course is not true, but it doesn't matter. He says it.
Just say it. Right? Just keep saying it.
He just says it over and over and over again. So he's not very popular. And of course, something like this was going to happen, and he's not going to get any support from his people, which of course is totally the opposite of the truth. The opposition leader in Ukraine has said, you know, I disagree with Zelenskyy on a lot of things, but this is the line. This is the line, and we're all in this as Ukrainians together. And Trump, STFU, this is about our sovereignty. This is about our country. And it's not about you cutting some deal in a back room that not only gives them territory, but gives them, the United States, an unlimited supply of our natural resources for who knows how long. It's got to be an open-ended deal. We can come in anytime we want and just take shit. Because we got to build. We have to build electric batteries for the cars that I hate and pretend that I hate. But my friend Elon Musk builds electric cars which need battery. Yeah. So it's kind of a problem, but we'll figure it out. Everybody knows we'll always figure it out.
That's what's
crazy.
What Brad is alluding to, there was a deal on the table for us to grab like a ton of minerals from Ukraine. They've got like a lot of minerals we need to build these battery cars that he's talking about.
No deal.
But
I don't think there's
Zelenskyy, there was a deal, and then Zelenskyy goes, I don't think you guys can have those minerals if you're just going to carve up our shit and give it to the Russians. We probably need to use that as a bargaining chip. And this is what really has set Donald Trump off. This is why Zelenskyy is terrible, even though he's better at making deals than Donald Trump ever was.
I don't even want to use the word embarrassing.
Yeah.
To describe this. It's just beyond any pale that you could ever imagine. And it's one of those, if I would have said to you 6 weeks ago that a month into his presidency, Trump would offer Putin the world, beginning with Ukraine. And of course, we're all wondering what's in it personally for Donald Trump, because that's how he makes deals. You know, is it the building in Moscow, the tall tower? Is it a casino in Kyiv? You know, some kind of crazy idea. Yeah. It's unimaginable. It's unimaginable, and it's sad, and it's terrible for the world. And we went 1930s Europe on Trump 9 years ago on this podcast, did we not?
Yeah.
And here's the problem: we underestimated it. Okay. Because you know what? Nobody had nuclear weapons back in 1938. Now, nobody thought of that as being a problem because nobody knew what nuclear weapons were, but the world imploded anyway. Right. But now the stakes are so much higher than they were back then. And they were damn high. You know, the survival of the West was on the line. Hitler wanted it all. He wanted everything. And wasn't going to get it.
Oh, and I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one to point this out, but kudos on having the talks in Saudi Arabia. That's a win.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it's lovely.
North Korea not available? What's the deal? You couldn't get your buddy on the phone? Get him down to Pyongyang?
Yeah.
Marco Rubio, to me, in the video that I saw with Marco Rubio, it looked like a hostage video, though. He looked like he was just like, I don't know where I am. I don't know what day it is. They've been playing the first Black Sabbath album over and over again. Like he should hold up a newspaper to himself and blink twice because he looked like he was just. How did this happen again? How did I end up here?
Yeah. It's a mess. But on the other hand, I think it's time we examine the facts here and just see whether Trump is right, and maybe we did bomb Tokyo and start World War II.
True.
Okay, maybe we got some bad reporting, and Tokyo, Japan was tagged with bombing Pearl Harbor. Maybe that didn't happen. My point here is that we are 3 years. I guess next week, or maybe even this week, it's the 3-year anniversary of Russia invading Ukraine. And Trump, in his head, whatever is in there, he's thinking, I think at some level, look, 3 years after January 6th, 2021, right? That would be January 6th, 2024, a little bit more than a year ago. By then, he had beaten much of this country into submission, into believing that January 6th was no big deal. It just wasn't a big deal. And it was a question of, the government was behind it. The government attacked the Capitol on that day to make Trump look bad. All those kind of crazy conspiracy things. So maybe in Trump's mind, 3 years go by since Ukraine gets invaded by Russia, and it's really time, it's fortuitous, it's really time to go all in on the bullshit and just start repeating it.
Wait a minute. He's not been going all in up till now? He's been holding back a little?
He's been holding back a little bit on that particular nugget. Okay. You haven't heard him say up until the last few days that Ukraine invaded Russia and started the war. That's a new one.
It is a new one.
That's a new one, unless I missed it. Did you hear that before?
Well, he's saying it's their fault. I don't know how. Again, you can't, because he's not following up, and nobody's asking him follow-up questions, and there's no. It's just mental, man. It's just mental. Every freaking day, it's something with this guy, and then you have to try to reverse engineer and try to figure out what he's talking about, and it's just. At least in the first administration, you did have a couple of people who were like, all right, that's not what's going on. Here's the deal. And they would kind of woe him back. Now it's, forget it. There's nobody there. They love it. Give me more of the BS.
Right. But on Tuesday night, Sean Hannity just grilled Trump and Elon Musk. Just took them downtown. Just swatted them. He brutalized those. Oh, are you kidding?
He tanned their hides, as we say back in the mountains, boy. Those guys won't be able to sit down for a week.
Right. That was a softball interview to end all softball interviews, because normally you never see anybody being interviewed with Trump. So the visual, the body language, and everything shows an uncharacteristically subservient Donald Trump sitting there listening to Elon Musk say absolutely nothing, take responsibility for nothing, and lie about everything associated with things that he has no business being associated with, right? Including the idea that a person not vetted, not really part of the government, this whole special, what is he, a special government employee, that's a thing. Is that a thing?
No, I mean, I think the last that I heard, he's not even an employee. It's just the whole thing's bizarre. There was a point in time after the Iraq War when they had the Coalition Provisional Authority. You remember the Coalition Provisional Authority?
Yeah, I have their flags.
Because we broke it and we bought it. That was ours. We had to figure out what the new government was going to be in Iraq. This is 04, 05, right?
Yeah.
And what was do you remember the deal with the Coalition Provisional Authority? These are like 23, 24-year-old kids that they've been interns at the Heritage Foundation. And surprisingly, that didn't go very well in terms of rebuilding Iraq. So now you have these people that are even younger than those people with access to every server imaginable in the United. I don't know. At some point, is it crazy for me to think that one of these assholes could launch a nuke? Just I just hit the alt delete button. I didn't mean to do that. You know, I'm sorry, but that seems like something that's possible right now.
Yeah. Did you ever drive a car, like a rental car? Okay. And you're faking it because you really don't know every control doing everything. But now most cars are generally the same. But all it takes is one mistake.
Yeah.
Touching one thing in the car.
It's over.
And you're done. You're
basically done. What you've done is you've given the 3-year-old in the car seat. You moved him up into the driver's seat, and you said, "Here you go. Have fun, Bobby." This is what, in my entire life, and this really, really, really hit the accelerate button back in the 80s during the Reagan administration. They told us government was shit. Government couldn't do anything right, and they sucked. And now what they're doing is they're going to fire anyone who ever knew anything about how to do anything in the government to prove to America that government sucks.
Well, this would be the end point of that whole philosophy, which really started with Reagan. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a 40+ year project that we're talking about. Reagan became president in 1981. So it's 43 years later. And it's never stopped. And people still laugh. They still laugh at the line that he threw out, the one-liner. Yeah. The 9 most dangerous words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Ha 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 ha. You know. So let me get this straight. When your house is on fire in Los Angeles, who are you gonna call?
Right.
Well,
you know who the government is out there to help? Any of Reagan's rich buddies, any of Trump's rich buddies, okay?
Yeah.
If you thought government sucked back then, wait till it's run by 20-year-olds named big balls. It's going to really suck. And it really, I mean, that's what they're doing. And it's not going to be, again, when he talks about, well, burdens are going to have to be borne here, you know, there are going to be some tough times. Well, the people that are not going to have tough times are him and his friends. They're going to be able to, you've already seen that Elon's contracts look pretty good. Those SpaceX contracts and those Tesla contracts, those things are rocking on. Now, I don't know so much about the SNAP and the WIC benefits. I don't know about your veterans benefits. I don't know about your Social Security survivor benefits, but I'm doing pretty good over here in 3 comma land.
Yeah. Well, we'll see over the next few days and few weeks whether earned government benefits continue to flow. They're promising they're not going to touch Social Security. They're not going to touch Medicare.
Just stop. You can't
Brett, you know what? Them. I think they deserve a break.
Stop. I'm delighted that I was able to get my refund back from the IRS before they started gutting that thing. I'm just so happy that happened. You know, when you started talking about Reagan and all the stuff that he did and about just gutting and the government sucks and it's terrible and all this, God, it just makes you wonder that since we lost Jimmy Carter, all that stuff that, you know, if Carter would have won re-election in 1980, you would just wonder if all the stuff that happened in the 80s that was so bad, like the crack epidemic in the inner cities, you don't know if something would have been done about that, or if the AIDS epidemic might have been addressed a little bit sooner than that. You know, you just wonder if all these things that were so bad, if you wonder if the labor movement, which Reagan tried to take a hammer to and did, you wonder what would have happened in that, what an opportunity that we would have had if Jimmy Carter could have won re-election in 1980.
It saved us from Reagan, which turned into George H.W. Bush. Yeah, the world would definitely look different.
There's no Trump in this scenario that I just laid out. There's no Trump, right? Trump doesn't become president.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
See?
Except the conventional wisdom on the right and with Republicans is that Jimmy Carter was the most incompetent, worst president ever.
I know.
And if it hadn't been for him, there wouldn't have been the necessity necessarily to elect Reagan, but that was never going to be because Jimmy Carter knew absolutely nothing. Funny thing, though, who among the presidents in our lifetime, probably forever actually, knew more about nuclear weapons and nukes than Jimmy Carter? The answer is no. Nobody.
No one.
Nobody. He was an expert.
And you heard it when they were doing the memorials to him, when they were doing, the requiems and stuff. Like a lot of the stuff that he did, a lot of the weapons he put into place, that's part of the reason that the Russians had to give it up later on in the 80s. I know Reagan gets credit for all of it. He did it by himself, but those guys set the record straight. It's just so depressing right now. Everything is very, very depressing right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, then why don't we talk about the real war, USA versus Canada? Go ahead.
Tonight in Boston. And by the way, when you want something you want to simmer down the temperature a little bit on a sporting event, particularly hockey, that's where you want to be. Right there. When you want the temperature taken down just a notch. The NHL decided not to do an all-star game. They did this Four Nations thing, which has turned out way better than the NBA all-star game. It turned out to be just a huge abortion. And so that was the footage that you saw this weekend when they were up in Canada and the national anthem got booed. So I'm sure the guys in Boston, the Southies, the people with 4 teeth, the missing chromosome folks, they're going to be booing the Canadian national anthem when it's sung tonight, just right on cue. And then those two teams who fought each other 3 times in the first 4 minutes of the game the other night are going to get back together and probably fight each other again. It'll be seen as some sort of referendum on Trump. Those boys in the USA uniforms, the red, white, and blue, they just love Donald Trump so much, and that's why they were attacking those Canadians.
Yeah. Yeah, you say something bad about my president, then you're saying something bad about me.
Let me just, again, educate some of you. Most of you know this stuff. The American guys don't give a shit about Donald Trump. There may be a couple that are kind of bros and they got the testosterone and everything. Most of those guys from real cold weather states, that are mostly blue states. And they don't really kind of cotton to the kind of crap that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. The fights and stuff that are going on the ice have nothing to do with them booing our national anthem. It's stuff that's over from the NHL and them trying to assert dominance. But if this is what you want to believe, go for it. Do what you want to do.
All right. What else we got on the burner here?
You said Steelers wheel. The Steelers wheel caught in the middle with you, I guess, is what we're doing here.
Yeah. Let's see.
You see, that was a Jerry Rafferty thing, and it was a thing that happened there.
I'll get that in a second. We have a site that's just popped up. It's called Trump Golf Tracker. Okay. He's been in office 28 days, and he spent 17% of those days playing golf. All right.
Okay.
So about one fifth of those days, which I know you think, well, that's a lot, but that's nothing compared to what he did in his first term. In his first term, 428 out of 1461. So that's definitely higher than 17%. That's well over 20%, 25% almost. So he's been so busy fixing the country, the one that Joe Biden broke, that he has not had enough time to get out there and play enough golf. And as you know, when he plays golf, he gets relaxed. He makes more sound decisions, and we all benefit. So before you attack for something like this, in case you want to count in another way, he played golf once every 5.6 days during his first term. That was 261 rounds
of golf,
of golf. And he cheated on 97% of it.
Of course he did. Well, I mean, to be fair, we haven't had a plane fall out of the sky in nearly 2 days. So, I mean, the guy's, he's got it under control.
Things are coming around nicely, aren't they?
All these DEI things that are making planes fall out of the sky. Geez, we got to get some more white male heterosexual pilots back there behind that yoke, don't we?
Can we get Captain Sully to unretire? I mean, he's like the only guy that can fly a plane, right? Isn't he like the only one left?
I think he's the only one left.
Yeah.
Somehow I think Trump would like turn him into a villain, though. Not a great guy, not a very nice guy, kind of a nasty person.
Let's see here. Fox News anchors fluff Trump's national security advisor over Ukraine drama. How should we characterize Trump calling Zelenskyy a dictator? Mentally ill, wrong, stupid, a moron, full of shit. How would you say that?
I think his statement, which I think was a big, long post, I don't think it was on Truth. I think it was on Instagram, but maybe it was on Truth, then on Instagram, pointed out. Now, this is true, and you can't deny this. Zelenskyy was just this guy that the Ukrainians saw on TV, and then they elevated him to the head of the country. How stupid is that?
No one would ever do that. You know that. That doesn't happen.
You get what you pay for on that one, Ukrainians. Ha!
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's turned out, and he's not perfect. None of them are, but he's turned out to be more of a statesman.
Oh my God!
Than anyone could have ever.
Oh my God!
Imagined.
Like
if
everybody in the world recognizes it pretty much, but our guy, the guy that should be like, everybody else is like, man, this is really brave what he's doing, and it's so amazing. But our guy just craps on him and just throws feces on every opportunity he gets.
I don't know. It's early in the day as we speak. It's, fairly late at night over in Ukraine. So with this time difference, things happen in weird ways. But who knows? I mean, we're doing a podcast, which by definition is not immediate.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I've never felt more like, we're not doing enough. And none of us are doing enough here, because he's ripping apart not just the United States, he's ripping apart the whole world. Yeah. And he's setting up the whole world against us. He's asking that the world turn its back on the United States. And he's good with that, because we can go it alone. We're the United States of America. All the factories are going to be back here. What's the date on all the factories coming back, Britt? Is that September, October of this year? They're all going to come back.
That wasn't another day one? I thought that was another day one.
Oh, every factory overseas was going to come.
The price of everything was going to go down, and then he was going to fix the Ukraine war in a day, and then there was all sorts of stuff. He was going to fix the Israel war, the Hamas war with Israel in a day. All that stuff was going to happen on day one.
Right. So this is the quandary for people like us, which is, we knew that all those promises were bullshit.
Of course.
But they did work enough for him to win the election. And Kamala Harris did not counter that stuff well enough, and the Democratic Party did not counter Trump well enough. And here we are. We're facing this. So with just 1 month in, 47 months to go,
things are good.
Yeah. I don't want to say it's already too late, but it almost feels like it is too late.
Well, the people who voted for him are going to have to feel a level of pain. I do believe that. Now, will the world blow up before that moment arrives? I can't tell you that. I don't know. Yeah. And it's not like I don't want to fight. You're getting sick of me saying the names in Florida for the Florida 1st and the Florida 6th, those special elections coming on April 1st. But we have that is something definitive and material that you can do right now is you can go give money to Gabe Alamont in Florida 1. You can give money to Josh Wheel in Florida 6. Those special elections are coming up on April 1st. And if we win those and we win the one in New York, we can take back control of the House maybe before the 4th of July. So at least he'll have something, some opposition.
Yeah, except he doesn't even acknowledge and would not acknowledge if suddenly the Democrats had a 1 or 2 vote lead in the House. Do you think that would change his behavior in the slightest? No.
Somebody go shoot one of them. I don't care which one it is.
No, but it just wouldn't. He doesn't respect the institution. He doesn't respect the country. He doesn't respect the voters. He probably, when the door is shut and he's sitting in his room, again, as always, with a phone in one hand and a remote control in the other hand. That's how I've always visioned him being. When he knows that he pulled off the greatest heist in human history to get elected twice as the most inept, unknowledgeable, but animalistically predatory asshole maybe to ever walk the earth. I don't know how else to term it.
I've said this to other people. I think, because I hope that, the hard rain's going to fall at some point, and I don't think it should be in a violent way, but I think it's going to be us, people like us, people who didn't vote for him, who are going to be pulling the people who did vote for him off of him, trying to go up to DC to try to put his head on a spike. Before this thing is all over, it's going to be us talking them out of, offing him, unaliving him.
Okay. I object to your language of the idea of us having to pull people off of Trump. I don't like that. It's a bad visual.
It's not. It's not literal, but it's figuratively. Like, no, please. I think that's what's going to eventually happen. I just. There has to be some reckoning for this, and I'm not, again, talking about violence. I'd love for him to be removed from office through impeachment, and he would have to fly over to Putin, and he had to be Putin's toilet boy for the rest of his life. That'd be great. I'd be okay with that. I'm all right with that. That's a good ending.
It's not going to happen.
Or him having a grabber and hitting the ground in about 3 hours would also be a pretty good ending for me as well. Just to say, just saying.
Yeah, that's a fantasy. Did you watch any of the grilling that he and Elon Musk got from Sean Hannity last night? Even the clips or the highlights.
I saw the aggregation. I saw the clips, and it was great to hear Elon spacing out and talking about people's Trump derangement syndrome. I certainly did enjoy that. That was great.
Right. I want to be lectured by that guy.
He can't even have a decent conversation with liberals anymore. They just freak out.
Yeah. They're impossible. You can't deal with those damn liberals anymore. They just don't understand what the program is and what the future is going to hold for all of us if we just go along to get along. Okay? Or is it get along to go along?
I am seeing I'm seeing some people fight back, and I know that the mainstream establishment Democrats are scared to death of AOC because she's so liberal, she's such a socialist, and she's so anti-Semitic and all this other crap that they make up. She to me makes a lot of sense. I'm sorry, but she makes a lot of sense to me in the stuff that she says, and it appeals to the working Americans. She knows what she's talking about with that. I don't have a problem with her and Jasmine Crockett just going ham on these guys. Just turn them loose. Because
of course you don't. But Britt, be real here. Kamala Harris, and I know when this is brought up, the right wingers and the conservatives and the Trumpers go, "Well, this is proof they don't get it." If you bring up the fact that some of the vote, not all of it, some of the vote was against her race and the fact that she was a woman, she was a double. Okay.
Yeah.
The idea that that AOC from a district in the New York area is going to become the president of the United States seems like a far-fetched thing. And I know nobody ever thought a guy who was a senator, an unknown from Illinois, Barack Obama would ever be president. I understand that. But think of the difference between 2007 and the machinery that is set up right now. If the Democrats dared to nominate for president someone like AOC, I wish it wasn't true.
Yeah.
I wish we had people who could look beyond the obvious and listen to the content and listen to the intent and listen to what the real message is. But I don't think we do. We've already gone so far over the cliff in terms of people just losing their minds and being unable to get past their prejudices. Remember, Trump has made it acceptable to reveal your hate and your prejudice for people who don't look like you. And I hate to even say something. Well, we need a white male Democratic nominee who is like AOC. Okay, I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. But and I hate to even be talking that way, but I'm afraid there's a horrible truth to that.
But we used to say this stuff. I used to say this stuff all the time. So it's just going to be a white male. You go, no. This is a country that elected Barack Obama twice. We've gotten over that. we got over that stuff. We can elect a black guy. We can elect a woman.
First of all, we didn't get over it because the second he was elected, second he was elected, he was attacked and racially tarred and feathered every day.
The first thing I remember that was objectionable to the Tea Party jerks very early on in the Obama administration, and this would have been early 2009. This would have been within a few weeks of him taking office. He was going to address the nation's school children. Do you remember this? Do you remember this?
Boo. This was a horrible boo.
Men and women across my kid ain't gonna do that. I'm taking my kid out of school. Hell no. We're doing Bible study that day. And what was the damaging information that Barack Obama gave those children on that day? Do you remember what he said to them?
Was it like President's Day weekend or something like that?
No, he goes, do your homework, do what your teachers say, and do what your parents say. That was the damaging socialist message that Barack Obama gave America's school children early in 2009.
Well, it would be funny if it wasn't so ridiculous.
It is. I remember the Tea Party people, as they strove to understand our nation's history, they would go up to Colonial Williamsburg, and if you've been there, they have people that are dressed up like Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. These people would get into fights with those paid actors on the street about what the Constitution actually meant. It was, and at some point we went, this is gonna be a passing thing. No, that was the fire. They started the fire.
Yeah.
And here we are.
That I remember because we went up to Williamsburg. I don't know whether it was in the middle of all that or not. And I don't recall anybody getting into a fight. And the reason for that is because I crushed George Washington. I killed the guy. I mean, he had no defense against my arguments.
Hey, what about those slaves that built your house there, buddy? And he just limped away. He just cried.
No, I said to George Washington, I said, what kind of wimp leaves after 2 terms?
Yeah.
One day, we're going to have people that we want to elect for more than 2 terms. And it turns out we did. We have Franklin Roosevelt. Yeah. And now we're stuck because they passed an amendment not allowing the great Donald Trump to run for a 3rd term. And if you think that would be a barrier
It's not.
to him starting to lobby over and over and over again.
He's already talked about it not being. He's already talked about it.
He talks about it all the time. And it's so funny, right? I'm just joking. No, you're not. You are not joking at all. Because, we're right back to the same point we were a year ago, which is if he doesn't stay in the presidency,
he goes to jail.
He's going to get indicted. And the old indictments don't die off. Okay. So, he needs to, like any good dictator, die in office, die in bed, die like Napoleon, right?
Yeah.
Never to be heard from again. Yeah.
They're gonna do an eternal flame with him and everything. Like they're probably gonna put him over to Arlington. Well, no, they'll do like an eternal flame, and it'll be a bigger eternal flame than the Kennedys. He'll make sure that his is like twice as big.
If Trump on, I think it was Monday or was it Tuesday, he shut down the Kennedy Library.
Yeah,
which is this beautiful building.
Oh, it's amazing.
As you drive down I-95 in Boston, it's right there. It's beautiful, beautiful building. So he decided to shut it down and fire a few people.
And why?
But now, wait a minute, hang on. Thank God the Reagan Library in California, the Nixon Library,
still alive,
were not touched, because those are beautiful libraries for good presidents, as opposed to John F. Kennedy, who, of course, as you know, remember when we got Fidel Castro elected premier of Cuba? Just make up stuff. Just make up stuff.
They said that I know that probably even as we're talking again, this is a problem with podcasts as far as it being completely contemporary. I know that the New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who is his butt in a sling right now. He's going to appear before the judge, and the judge is going to ask, why should I dismiss these charges? Because this looks a lot like a quid pro quo, which is illegal. And so this guy, who does not have a friend in the world, and New York City hates this guy. New York City to Eric Adams, drop dead. If they remove him from office, which Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, can and should and will.
And won't. And here's why.
Why is that?
Very simple. It would take about 3 years for it to happen, because he would have the right to call an unending number of witnesses. There would be no end. You just can't pick him up and pull him out of the office, because he gets due process. So it's not as simple as you've heard.
The due process that the Department of Justice has skipped over in giving him the sweetheart deal that he has?
Of course. Suddenly, they would be really into due process.
Suddenly, right? Do you think, if it ever happened, if they were able to remove him from office, do you think that, and then, by the way, he's on the hook for the corruption charges, because the deal's off. He has no utility for the Trump administration. He can't go in there and start pointing over to brown people and say, go, God, now. By the way, the Martin Short ice bit was really funny, I thought, on Saturday Night Live. I really enjoyed that. I would think
that he'd be willing to cut a deal in about 5 seconds. I'm going to leave office, okay, and I'm going to tell you what I know.
Yeah.
All right? I'm going to tell you what the deal was, what really happened, and in exchange for that, no prosecution, and my political career is over.
Please, yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, because if I think of it, it's not going to happen. That's the way it works.
That's the rule in life. If I think of it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's never going to be.